transgender girl. The topic for my video today is on friendship. I am very fond of my friends, and I must say that having friends is very important. I've been transitioning now for the past 3 years, and from the first day that I came out, unfortunately I lost a lot of friends. They couldn't handle the fact that I was transitioning from male to female. So I was contemplating what the true meaning of friendship is, because I don't consider people that walk away friends. If they were true friends, they would have stuck by my side. I didn't have that experience with all my friends, but a good amount of friends, which surprised me. I still have good friends that are still by my side, and they accepted me completely when I first came out, and I'm very fortunate. But I don't have many friends. I'm a very shy and reclusive person, so my real way to get out through social communication is through Facebook, really, and YouTube, and Google+. I was able to meet friends. Now I have more transgender friends now than I have normal friends, because I go to a transgender support group, and I meet a lot of transgender girls and some trans guys, and we've become friends. You know, we don't really get together that often. On occasion we do. There are a couple of trans girlfriends I have that we hang out, and there is a trans guy friend that I have a good friendship with, that I care about. But aside from my weekly appearances at the transgender support group, I really don't have a lot of social contact. So my basic means of social contact is Facebook, YouTube, and Google+. And I've made so many friends on Facebook, and I value each and every one of my friends on Facebook. I have a lot of transgender girlfriends on Facebook. I have some trans guy friends, and I have a normal population of people as friends. I never see these people, but I have been able to communicate with them through messaging, or through Skype, or through sending pictures to one another. And I also belong to some groups, which I think I'm gonna unjoin, or take separate my association from many of the groups, because I'm struggling with depression right now, and I was getting a little, I was trying to post to help myself, but it really didn't work. So I'm refraining from that. The only pages, well, I did have created some group pages. I've created the Transgender Girls Club. I created Transgender Girls and Women of the World, another group page. I created Chicken Soup for the Transgender Soul. I created I Know and Love Someone with Autism, and I created Friendship, and that's what my video is essentially about: friends and the importance of making friends. Now, when I first started out on Facebook, my first profile was obviously of my male persona, Edward Donald Iannielli III, and I still have that Facebook page, because I still have friends on that account, and family relatives and my sisters. So I don't want to delete that account. That account has to stay. And my sisters refuse to friend me on my Emily Iannielli page. So my only way to communicate with them is through my male persona Facebook page, which I still can't figure out why they refuse to accept me as a friend on my female persona Facebook page. I don't know, the reactions of some people really surprise me, but I have no control over that, so I just have to deal with it. But I have friends from all over the world. I have friends in Ireland, England, Asia, Sri Lanka, Africa, Australia, Canada, Peru, so many places, Italy, Switzerland, France, Germany, Austria, so many places. Oh, in Taiwan and Japan, I have so many friends, and I'm so happy to have them. And you know, I enjoy each and every friend. I just feel that it's very important to establish friendships. Even if you never meet the people, you still have a way to be friends with them through messaging, Skype, sharing photos, whatever. And I never realized that Facebook would grow the way it has. You know, I was only an occasional user of Facebook, especially with my male persona account. I wasn't nearly as active as I am now as a transgender girl on my female persona account. You know, it's confusing that I have two accounts, two distinct accounts, but I kind of work off both of them, but I'm mostly on my female account. So I hardly ever go on my male account. And people ask me, why don't you just close it out? And I really don't want to. There's no need for me to. And I'm still trans, and I'll always be a transgender girl, whether I have that page or not. But I think when you're going through a lot of inner turmoil, depression, being different from the norm, it's great to bond with people that identify with you and you identify with them. I try to keep in touch with friends that are like me, mainly transgender girls. If I feel that a transgender girl is worth being friends with, I will go out of my way to be friends with her, because I want to learn and I want to share experiences. And I'm just amazed at some of the transgender girls, how beautiful they are. You know, when I look at myself and I see them, I just feel like I got so much work to do. I wish I was beautiful as they are, but I have to accept my lot in life. I'm just an ordinary transgender girl, nothing special. I'm trying to be as pretty as I can be, but looks are not that important. What's really important is what's in your heart. And I have a lot of love and compassion in my heart, and I would do anything to help. And you know, I have a son who's special needs. He's autistic, so I know what it's like to be different. I'm transgender. I've struggled with gender dysphoria all my life, since I was 3 years old, basically. I didn't know the term, obviously, but I knew I was a girl from that age, and it was very hard to deal with, especially because I kept it a secret. I could never tell my family, my parents, my sisters, no one. So I struggled with that for my whole life, basically. And I, the value of friendship is very important, and I'll say it like this. When I lost my dad 5 years ago to suicide, people usually step back and they don't know what to do. So they'll give you some time. However, I had one friend in particular who was right there for me. He called me on the very day that he found out. And he lives in Connecticut. I live in New York, so that's quite a distance. And he was on the phone with me for like 5 hours, consoling me, asking me if there's anything he could do. And to me, I was so touched by how he cared. And I was thinking about it. I always wondered if I came out to my friend, how he would react to it. And I truly feel that he would have embraced me and accepted me. But that will never be known, because I lost him. He died in his sleep. He was 40 years old, and his death was what pushed me into transitioning. I felt that I was getting older. I struggled all my life with my gender, and I didn't want to go to my grave never experiencing living as a woman. I did all the things that I was supposed to do as a male. I went to college. I got a good education, thanks to my parents. I started out in my career as an engineer, mechanical engineer. Then I shifted into accounting. I met a girl who I fell in love with and married. We have a son. I tried to do all the right things. And I always fought my gender identity disorder. And I tried to fight it bravely. And I tried to suppress it and push it out of my mind. And I never went to seek therapy till I was in my mid-30s, or maybe early to mid-30s. I married late. I was a late bloomer, and I actually met my wife through the therapist that I was going to. And I was actually seeking the therapist to help me with mourning my mom's death. She died prematurely. She was 49. She died 25 years ago. God rest her soul. And I was also going there for my transgender issues. And I wanted to transition. I was in my early to mid-30s, and I wasn't married yet. So I figured, it would be the right thing for me to transition. The only problem was I was still living at home with my dad. And I couldn't tell my dad that I wanted to live as a woman. So I was going through an inner turmoil, and I didn't know what to do. And after going to the therapist for several years, we talked about my dating possibilities. And I said I was open to it because deep down in my heart I wanted to have a family. And she introduced me to a girl from the Philippines who was very shy, and I was very shy. And we hit it off. We dated several times. Then we were compatible. We felt that we had a good friendship. relationship, and we decided that we would get married. And shortly after we got married, we had our son. So it was like, everything was happening so fast. And, I pushed my gender issues aside because now I was married and I had responsibilities, and then I became a father. So I had to do the right things, and I was scared, but I knew that it was my responsibility, and I was going to be a dad for the rest of my life, no matter what. And I was going to be loyal to my wife, no matter what. And then things happened. My father committed suicide. That was 5 years ago. And then my best friend, who helped and consoled me through my father's tragic death, died in his sleep at the age of 40. And when I went to his wake, it just knocked me for a loop. It pushed me over the edge. And I had to go back into therapy, obviously with a different therapist. And I talked about my depression. I talked about my dad's suicide. I talked about my friend's premature death. I talked about my mother's premature death. I talked about my son's struggles with autism. I talked about my concern for my wife and our relationship. And I talked about my cross-dressing and my internal struggle with my gender identity. And we tackled all of the issues that were on my mind. But when I talked about my gender issues, my therapist, was quite intrigued, and she wanted to explore that aspect of my life. So we delved deep into that, and basically after many, many sessions and lots of money spent, I knew all along what I had to do. It was just a matter of time. I struggled with my gender identity all my life, from the age of 3. So I knew that there was nothing new about that. And I was scared. Look, I'm married. I have a son. I was working. What do you do? And I had no friends. I did research. I went on the internet. I was on crossdressers.com. I was on YouTube. I did internet Google searches for gender dysphoria, for gender identity disorder, for transgender, for transsexual. So I just went through everything. And I was cross-dressing all the time, but I was doing it in secret. And when I went out, I would always wear male clothing, but underneath I would have women's clothing on. So I was always dressing in women's clothes. I was just concealing it. And I was afraid to tell people. The hardest part for me was coming out. It was really scary having to tell my wife and my son. I really lost a lot of sleep. I didn't know what to do, how to say it. And it's still very difficult. I'm lucky though, because my son is very accepting. He's very mature. I was scared of the age when I was telling him. He was about 14. Now he's 16. So I was afraid how he would react. And he was kind of surprised. He didn't know how to react initially. And I understood quite well that he should have that reaction. And I embraced him, And I told him that no matter what, I'm going to be your dad. And I'm going to love you with my heart and soul. So you don't have to worry about that. And after a while, I didn't dress in really female clothes. In the beginning, I really just wore like a blouse and trousers. And we went for family counseling and talked about, his concerns and how he reacts to it. And then over time, he said, Dad, you can dress how you feel, it's okay. I love you no matter what. So I gradually dressed more feminine clothing, and he was fine with it. And, I'm very fortunate that I have a son who loves and accepts me. I love and accept my son. I adore my son. We have what's that word? A love that endures. A love that never goes away. I just can't think of the word. It'll come to me. But unconditional. We have an unconditional love for each other. And my wife struggles with it still, but I love and care for her. And I would do anything for her. I just want to be happy, and I need to be me. I can't change who I am. I'm always going to be this way. And I just struggled. I wanted to transition at very early ages. The earliest I was 16, then in my early to mid-20s, then in my early 30s, all throughout my life. And when I hit into the 50s and I had to deal with these tragedies, I just couldn't do it anymore. I couldn't hide, I couldn't run away. I had to confront it. And the only way I could confront it was to accept who I was and to seek to transition. And that's when I got in touch with Callan Ward. I go to Callan Ward for my hormones, my hormone replacement therapy. And I learned of Callan Ward through crossdressers.com because they have a forum on transgender issues, and I found that was very helpful. And I was lucky to come across a thread that mentioned about Callan Ward and how it's very open-minded to the administration of hormones to transgender individuals. And when I first went there, the doctor who I go to asked me, what are you here for? And I said, I'm here because I'm transitioning. Well, I want to transition from male to female. And she said, you want to live as a woman? And I said, yeah. And she said, why are you dressed like you are? And it's funny because when I went there, I was wearing a suit and tie. And she said, okay, I need you to take off your clothes so I can do a physical. So when I took off my suit and tie, I had my dress on. And she laughed at me. And she said, okay, I get you, hon. I get you. And 3 months later, she put me on hormones. Estradiol, female estrogen, and spironolactone, a testosterone blocker. And I've been on the female hormones and the testosterone blocker now for about 2.5 years. And it's starting to really help me in my transition. It's giving me a lot more confidence when I go out. I feel a lot happier. I'm much more feminine than I used to be. And I'm just happy. I don't want to upset people. My whole intention in transitioning is just to be happy. I'm much happier dressed as a woman and presenting as a woman and living as a woman. You know, sure, I want to have sex reassignment surgery. You know, sure, I would like to have larger breasts if I could. You know, sure, I would consider facial feminization if I could. Uh, but I can't. So I have to live with what I have. I'll be fortunate if I can do sex reassignment surgery. And for me, that's enough. I don't need anything else. I'll be happy with that. But, you know, I need people in my life that understand what I'm going through. And I found that on Facebook, there are lots of good friends that I've become close with. And I treasure those friendships. And I'll always treasure them. Because we have a bond. You know, when I make friends with a transgender girl, I'm very sincere. And I want to open up. And I want to share my experiences. You know, I'm not a perfect person. I've been struggling with depression. I struggle with suicide ideation. I've been in the hospital multiple times for attempted suicide. You know, I'm not the model transgender girl. I don't have it perfect. You know, but I'm working to get better. That's why I go to a therapist and a psychiatrist. And, you know, it's hard for me because I'm not working. I'm on medical disability. So I'm at home a lot. So when I was on Facebook, I was doing a lot of posting because I didn't know what else to do with my time. But I'm getting away from that. I don't want to post anymore. You know, if I post, it's going to be little, and it mostly will be to the pages I created. You know, and I'm going to do my YouTube videos, and, you know, I'm going to post them on my Facebook page, and maybe to some of the transgender girl groups I created. You know, I just feel that when I make a good friend, whether it's on Facebook or in real life, when I say real life, I mean like face-to-face friendship, I value that. Friendships are priceless. And I have love in my heart, you know, and I'll do I mean, I'll even make friends with guys, you know. Sure, I would love to have a guy take me out on a date. I'm not really dating guys. I just want to go out to a movie, have a good time. But my wife is my true love. But it would be nice to be able to experience going out as a woman with a man by your side. I think that would be pretty cool. I've never had that experience. No sex, obviously, just friends. But I'd rather go out with girls. I like the female perspective, and you know, I like to be with people that I can identify with. And I think for me, the group of people that I can truly identify with are transgender girls. And, you know, I want to go out dancing one time. You know, I want to let loose. I want to experience life as a female. I don't like to be cooped up in my house wearing pretty clothes, wondering, you know, what I'm going to do. You know, I need to experience life. I need to share myself